And colleagues, our next speaker is dedicated how to find vulnerabilities in the network and how to detect. And so then the review of the product about network disability. Nataliya Kazankova will talk about that. We'll start with product marketing, and Dmitry Sabadash will follow up. So please, over to you. Thank you for the invitation. Welcome. So we'll talk about PT Network Attack Discover. This is our product. So we'll talk how the specialists here and abroad identify the transparency of the traffic, and then at the end of the presentation, so we'll show a good case and how we feel. So being at the standoff event, and so let's start with the results of the most recent report. So we put it up on the site. So that 231 specialists participated, security specialists participated. So the different companies, representatives, small, large, medium. Our task was to identify how they evaluate the transparency of their corporate networks, so they compare with their peers abroad, and then what can we expect from the market of the analysis of the traffic and these instruments used here. So then the level of the transparency of the traffic, the difference, so the external traffic and the internal traffic. So the results and evaluations don't differ much. So everything just goes on an even keel. So what I mean that about 78% in both cases evaluate the transparency of the traffic at a low level or medium level, which is not very good for security. Because the better you see the network, the easier for you is to identify threats there. It's obvious. So let's compare so with foreign peers. So then foreign research was done by Sun's company, it's an American company. So they polled specialists all around the world. Those were most specialists, so large companies, corporations, located on different continents. And here the picture is different abroad. The specialists see better the external traffic and then what's happening inside the network. And if you look at this data from the viewpoint of different countries, the cross-section, so we start asking why our international colleagues so evaluate the transparency of the traffic at a higher level than our Russian colleagues. So there may be different options and the explanations. So we were in chat, the Telegram chat, guys, as representatives of integrating companies, representatives of customers, our experts who were all in chat. And during the discussion between these stakeholders, we came to the conclusion that in Russian companies, not at all Russian companies, so they use the classical the firewalls, classical means of identifying traffic threats they use, and that certainly reduces the transparency of the traffic. And then the second possible option is that since the budget on information security is much higher than in Russia. And the second point that we need to learn during that study. So what the specialists expect from the instruments of traffic analysis. So what are the priorities? Here, the whole list of tasks that they need to address. And with my comments, I think that everything will become easier. So every task needs to be, so there are 5. So they always from 5 to 1. So 5 is green rectangle, and 0 is this one light gray. And what we came, so from 0 to 5. So what we understood that the specialists, so they prefer the tasks which are related to identification of threats, which is quite logical, identification of vulnerabilities inside the network, perimeter, so then the network anomalies, regulations conforming to the requirements of information security to make sure that everything should be safe inside the network. And this is what they want. And because all these tasks are done by the in network traffic analysis and NTA, so that done within this instrument. What is traffic analysis network system? So they look at the perimeter inside the network, they study them, and they concentrate mostly what's happening inside infrastructure, because the paradigm of security shifted from the perimeter to the monitoring of internal network. And so then they identify the attacks different ways. And so user indicators, complementation, retrospective analysis, and more complicated technologies using that, so that's machine learning and other more complicated instruments. And then the response needs to be quickly generated. And so many call it network detection response, NDR. So these abbreviations are very important, and they solutions help us to study the incidents, to investigate incidents, because they contain the information that they need to investigate incidents. Then we came to the conclusion on anti-rating. So along the of the tasks that got the highest grade, and that the last point, the least number of points. I mean, these are the tasks that are have less priority, and so that many specialists they assign 0 or 1 point. So which is deciphering the encrypted traffic. Decryption of encrypted traffic is a very long, painstaking process. No one wants to do this description. Then retrospective analysis, they don't like it. That's why they put it, they assign one to it. And it's not very popular with Russian specialists. The third question that we asked in this study, so it's kind of provocative. So what's more important for security, encryption or network transparency? And so then they needed to identify the concern from 0 to 5, that the encrypted traffic actually stands in the way of the transparency network. So 0, I prefer to encrypt, and then 0 is the other way around. And so they will see the majority of the specialists, 64% Russian specialists, so they prefer the transparency over. So they are not ready to encrypt everything. So they should encrypt part of it, but not all of it, because transparency is priority. And the foreign peers, they have the same kind of. They agree to that as well. So because they have to do it from 0 to 10. And so then 56% of the specialists, so they go in favor of greater transparency of the network. What's the conclusion? So the first conclusion is that NTA systems, so they meet the requirements of the market. So then the companies are trying to monitor their internal networks. They understand the necessity. They're doing it well because the specialists that identified the most important tasks on hand. So that's why the NTI system has all the necessary capabilities to address the issue. The second conclusion is that encryption certainly would be good for this market, because the majority of the specialists, they do not want to encrypt everything inside the network, and that is why so that there's more opportunities to identify internal threats and vulnerability. But if the company tries to encrypt everything what's happening within this infrastructure, then the system will be still useful, because many of them just can analyze this decrypted traffic, analyze activities of miscreants and malware. All these questions that we can put on, we can find them on our website, all the information, and so there is a link on our website as well. So let's move over to our products proper. So this is PT network attack discovered, identified attacks on the perimeter inside the network. And so we have the expertise to identify, so the bad guy who just inserted itself into the system. And so it sees the activities even of the bad guys within the encrypted traffic, and then we can always easily launch investigation and identify the vulnerabilities. So what are the key tasks? So 3 key tasks. So the first is has to do with the transparency of the network. So it determines 80 network protocols, and the number of protocols increase from release to release, and so then including 30 which are very widely spread, up to L7 level, so that allows to see certain security problems, so then the transfer of data that can be intercepted by the bad guys, etc. And or just using the illegitimate software. The second key task is identifying the hidden attacks. So they do it automatically. So the activities of the miscreants, and when they were trying just to use the malware, and so hacking the machines, and applying hackers' instruments from before the information is transferred to the server of the attackers. So then the efficiency of SOC, so which components of the network have been compromised for detailed study. So then concerning Security Operations Center, we need to underline here that many experts in the security market, including the research company Gartner, says that that the approach changes. So what was spoke about SOC only from one point of view. Now just we're looking differently, because for the proper visibility of networks, so the SOC needs three components, which is the system that analyzes events, then an NDA system that sees everything what's happening within the traffic, and the EDR system, and certainly the SIEM system as well. So each component comprises, includes certain ways to counteract the attacks of the hackers. So let's see how. So then PTNet does not influence the operation of the information system of the company. So we suggest that we need to connect it from the perimeter or to the infrastructure. And so then NET can identify attacks. So when the hacker is trying just to get inside the perimeter and get into the network, and once he's there, and the hacker is trying just to acquire the domains controller, or steal the data once inside, so then NAD will identify, don't move around the network to see what interesting things a hacker can find. So that's why PTNet identified lots of threats and at different levels. And one point I wanted to make is so it can analyze decipher decrypted traffic. So we have a group of experts, and they tell us how they identify so then the attacks and vulnerabilities. And then another point that NET identifies the operation of the vulnerabilities in the network, identifies the vulnerabilities in the network. And this is, so we are part of the program for the Microsoft Active Protections developers. It means that Microsoft sends us all new information about the vulnerabilities from day one about the products, and we add them to the protection products. So thus the users of PTNet can always have the benefit of using the rules even before the patch is released, because Microsoft provides this information to us. And then PTNet identifies the activities of different malware, and so for that, it can apply to the whole family of malware range, and easily identify them and deal with them. So then who is the customer of PTNet? So then the different key industries of the Russian economy. And then Security Operations Centers is our another customer. So they use PTNet, so probably you heard on the news about that. And usually it's big business. So they have considerable, or at least they have, so IT teams. Then they have different positions, and these teams, they they operate the traditional perimeter type protection systems, or they're introducing this new system, so they are considered to be a mature company, and for them net will fit fine. So then scenarios. First is the control of conforming to the security regulations, it's network protocols, and they put together the data, then store them in the product, and so the 1200 parameters, and using these parameters we can find them. So there's a flexible research system, filtration system, so I can just put in the parameters and identify, narrow down the search area. So why we need that? For example, if you want just to track so whether in your network you have open passwords, it can be intercepted by the hacker if they get into the big network. So let me tell you more specifically what we have here. So then there's a picture on the left side. So then you can put it on the dashboard, this chart. You can filter out and put all the parameters of the search of the login and password in the network. You can store this parameter of the search and then put it on the screen. Thus, you can easily track if there are new logins and passwords appear. So where they occur, from what nodes they come, and always take action just to stop them flying around. Yeah, the second case. The second scenario is identifying attacks. Identifying attacks. So I think that they will show. So my colleague just will show you the attack cards in the interface and how the investigation occurs. Here is so the database of product knowledge is as updated every day by PT Expert Security Center. This is our main center, which follows, monitors, does investigation. So they upload new rules, new regulations, new indicators of compromising indicators. So they always upload them every day, and then they detect the threats in the encrypted traffic, and machine learning is used to identify the connection between and then domain mining and fight it as well. So we have a good example for you to see how this system works, how NET is designed. And so, for example, so the hackers want to get the domain controller of the head organization. So they get into the subsidiary for that. So there is a network of subsidiaries. It's connected with the head subsidiary, and then the attacker can go into the domain controller of the main organization. And
so that will respond to it. So it will tell that it has detected the SMB query from the illegitimate segment, and that's how the card looks, where this illegitimate query took place. You see the name of the rule that was activated, then the time and when it, who was the sender and who was the recipient, and then you can act upon the event so that it would never happen again. So many rules are actually related to the techniques and tactics. We at ATP&CK, because we follow all the trends and we try to match them to comply. Why do we need that? Because specifically here in the product, it allows to detect at what stage the intruder is, why he came, why it tries to do, what is he trying to do, and then we add the description what's happening. And the main thing, we recommend what needs to be checked and done, so that first make sure that it's not a false alarm, and then to respond once it's truly the hacker's activity. And the third case is investigation and threat hunting. So we have them together here. We merge them because the product is, the principle is the same. When we investigate the attack, the expert starts off investigating after he will see the anomaly or some bug in the interface, and then if he is a healthy paranoid, and he will invent a way to just check and analyze the data in the product. So it's painful because it stores metadata and the traffic, and the security guys actually can go and look what was compromised, and it will allow to localize the attack, understand the attack, and then they collect the evidence and find out vulnerabilities. So I'll give you a brief example here of an investigation. For instance, you saw a card of a session where there is a message that was an attempt of authorization in the domain controller and with insufficient rights. You see who was the sender of this activity and start checking activity of this node, and you see that the session was here and was quite suspicious. All the sessions were detected at 6:30 a.m. You understand that your people are still asleep, so it's hardly your employees. So something suspicious here. You block this account and try to investigate why this node was attacked and how it was compromised. And let's now switch to the most interesting thing. Let's go and look at the NAD and how it looks and how we handle it. And Dmitry, please tell us about your case from the standoff. Thank you, Natasha. It was very interesting. Yes, I was. First, I'll share a very interesting case about the risk of the personal data of our airline passengers leak. Let me switch on the demo and we shall show how NAD responds to this attack and how we can understand what hackers were doing. Yes, that's true, exactly. Through this tool, with this tool, we can really actually roll back in detail every stage of the attack. So first, let me show you at our demo our general interface, and then we shall look at the combat installation at our standoff. And then I will show you the analysis of this attack. The main page of our product is called a dashboard, which flexibly locates the widgets. These widgets are broken down into categories. By default, we have three classes of widgets: traffic widgets, then software widgets that indirectly is detected by our sensors, and a tax widget registered by the rules, the PT and AD rules. So let's go through those widgets from the traffic. So let's have a look at the geography, the servers by the protocol used, and the protected network as well, and the charts by clients and sessions, number of active sessions registered in the system, and so on. Can you actually yes, individualize the dashboards? Yes, exactly, that's what I was going to tell. There's a flexible system of setting up the dashboards for your personal convenience. So you need to click this button and select the widgets. And we can add them by categories. So I cannot list all of them in one go. The second important tab is sessions. This tab reflects all sessions that we see on the time scale that we have here up under the roof. So in the top part of the screen, we can see the main parameters and go to the card of the session in order to view the detailed parameters. And the parameters that are highlighted in blue are clickable. So when we click, we set up the filter, we use it, and we can clearly visualize the traffic from the node we want, or set up or filter it by certain parameters. Then at the attack tab, we can look at the alarms. Alarms according to the rules written by our center experts, as well as external vendors written rules. So let's go down, drill down to a tab and see how it looks. Here we have general data, the attacker, the node under attack, and the general rule here. And as it is a general rule, we don't have description and recommendation, but most of the rules developed by our colleagues contains the description and recommendations. So it will be easier for people to understand what's happening in the network and how it can be prevented. So we then show the load and the rules and the session parameters. Now let me speak about the case and our battle CM. So let me talk about the passengers' personal data leaks. So here we have the sessions from the attacking command that managed to exploit the remote RCE and upload EP shell to the resource 10.126.20.135. So we drill down and we see that it was made by this file. Uploading some files, we can trace the chain of operations, and we could determine what they did. First, they established connection to a remote service, then uploaded the backdoor, and then gave the executing rights, and then launched it. And after that, the attacker checked the directory with each authorized keys with successful writing of the key. And then, as there are many sessions, there were some activities on reading the DC shadow file that contains information about the user's passwords, which contains encrypted passwords. And in a while, less than in 7 hours, at the host, we got Avia HSL, and so what was detected was SSH session of a user whose password was identified, and the information of the user was they managed to read the information about the user, the passenger of the airline. And then another interesting tab that Nataliya mentioned about the alarms. So that's how the dashboard window looks. Over the last 8 years at the standoff, so under the alarms, according to the rules, so we saw approximately 100,000 attacks, and all of them have been classified according to under the matrices and the tactics ATT and CK. It's interactive. We can point at the class of the matrix and look at the number of attacks performed. So the red commands cannot, are still very active. They cannot go idle. So they never idle, day or night. They keep attacking aggressively and with great perseverance. So very strong fight for the points, because we are going to see the results in 24 hours. Yes. Is that all? Yes, I'm done. So I'm taking the screen away from you. So thank you for the demo. Now I'm going back to the presentation for a while. And let me tell you how to start with PT and AD. And it's simple. It will be piloted in several steps. The process takes approximately a month. First, there should be a request from a customer. You can submit it at the Positive Technologies website, or can contact the manager, or get in touch with the authorized partners. And so then you sign NDA by all the parties of the agreement, and then you just discuss the infrastructure. Then you roll out. It will be installed quite quickly. Then you set it up, and then you connect and monitor the traffic that you select for monitoring. And then there is time for the time of heroes, experts who are going to monitor the traffic of the customer, or our experts, or the partners' experts who are going to look at the network and what's wrong with the network, if there are any errors or bugs or whatever, what are the recommendations, what are the attacks, how to group them. And so all this monitoring will kind of boil down to the reports, and then the customer will see if the solution is good for them. Usually it's very good. And so then we have collected the results of 36 pilots into one report in 2019. So it's only part of the project where the customers agreed to use the data, and we share in the unidentifiable form. So we decided we can share this data because they are anonymous, and all the errors that happen in all the companies, industries, and sizes. And I appeal to you that you start actively promoting NAD with us, included in your product portfolio. Get trained, both for sales partners and technical experts. And next year, we're going to expand this program, and we're ready to support everyone in terms of marketing and PR, and act together and prepare some interesting cases. So join us in Telegram chat, where we discuss all the relevant news about the product and market innovations. So that's it for me. And now myself and Dmitry, we are ready to take your questions or discuss. So we thank you immensely for the wonderful presentation. The question that we wanted to discuss primarily has to do with the fact, well, what do you think? Why do you think this backtracing, this retrospective analysis is not as popular as it used to be? Not so popular as it used to be. So Dmitry, could you please just deliberate? Well, it's not very popular because not all customers have the proper number of memory where you could store the data on the attacks and for further analysis of retro correlation. And very often it is the main obstacle for performing this type of investigation. Yes, I agree. Well, many participants of Telegram chat agree with you, as it still requires both capacity and money. It requires budget. In addition to that, many participants, many stakeholders, many community players say that many security guys have not learned yet to use the retrospective analysis and get the benefits. Some of the participants say they use it and believe this is a very useful tool. Well, in fact, it's true. This idea is quite clear, and considering that knowledge usually is behind the attackers. So retrospective analysis, backtracing allows you to understand how was it happening. You actually participated, Nataliya, in those 36 pilots, and these pilots are the proof of the need to use the very product. Is it just because there are some vulnerabilities on the customer side, or you can calculate some kind of efficiency from the point of view of lack of idle time or no loss of information? So economics of the deployment. Yes, you are talking about the, the big dream of the security market, so that you immediately could actually monetize the influence of the product. Actually, not in this report. There are no reports, financial reports on the payoff of the backtracing. It doesn't mean they were not thinking. In fact, the security system construction should be based on the knowledge of the influence of the comparative study of business with security or without security. And that's exactly the heart of the standoff competition, because hackers get points for business risks, carried out business, practical business risks, because they can cause not just a hardware loss, but deaths, reputation, disasters, or disasters to the city, or collapse of a city. So we are looking in this direction, and we are trying to link the risks that primarily are of concern to the company, so with the way our product could help close those risks, mitigate those risks. How do you plan further development of the product? What can you tell? I can unveil the mystery. For the next year, we are going to have 2 releases. The first early in the year, in March and February-March, and it's going to be the release about the cost management, and we shall have it, and we are going to control changes in the infrastructure. And the second innovation that we are going in this release is the vendor's activity that can help to focus of the security guys in the most interesting items and the cases that we believe that require on immediate response. And the second release we shall have in the fall 2021, and about the network anomalies, and we shall study the behavior analytics to identify something that was unusual for the customer's infrastructure. So what are the key differences between NET and other NT systems? Let me start, and Dmitry will complement. So the competition is not that stringent in the Russian market, at least, though after then the NAD and other vendors started developing similar products and just had them to NTA. So we are different from SASIM system because they analyze NFU protocols, but we analyze other protocols. Well, we can discuss what's right and what's wrong, but NSU analysis stores only part of data. Some data may be lost, but as the second difference is that some products that have been quickly launched in the NTA market, in fact, are targeted at traffic and perimeter, and they don't have many protocols analyzing for the domestic traffic, in-house traffic. So they actually look at perimeter threats, but not the infrastructure threats. So they are kind of, yes, you're looking at a network inside after the virus got inside the company. Yes, yes. It's not so much about NTA system. Dmitry, do you want to add something? Speaking about the raw traffic, there's nothing to add, but probably the only thing is that we have advanced use of reputation lists and indicators of error of compromise so that are integrated and enrich the data. And we daily, my colleagues daily work, keep working, that's their routine operation. So this is a very a strong killer feature, yes, Dmitry is a fan of this killer feature. So if a customer has important infrastructure, but unfortunately the number of experts, security experts, or qualification is insufficient, what approach will you suggest to use to control this, to manage this process? Rather use expertise of your partners or cloud services and remote management of security infrastructure of the customer? Yes, well, we provide our own services through our experts and NT center that can monitor the customer. And so it's the expert who know all the details because they have been working with the product since the 0 day, since the date was born. And then certainly the customer may turn to partners and SSP companies who may arrange monitoring for them through NTA solution or CM solution. We thank you so much for the wonderful presentation and demo. It's so interesting always to look at the cases. It's most important for the security guy to see how it's going to work live in the network. And also we bid you farewell, and we shall have the next presentation in the central session, and then see you tomorrow then. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Goodbye.